Hello and welcome to Matt's Garage.
So I wanted to talk to you a bit about the Neon and how much it's cost me over the last 8 years of ownership. Neon's been a big part of my channel, and it will remain a big part of my channel into the future. Here I've actually got some big plans for it this fall, and that's why I decided to shoot this video right now, talking about how much it's cost me and what I've had to do to maintain it over the years. See guys, I've made these notes, basically a list of all the repairs and what they cost, and some of them I had to round a little bit, but I round it up. And so we're going to go over, I've had this Neon for 8 years, and we're going to go over the cost of ownership for 8 years and 68,125 miles of very hard use. So stick with me here and we'll cover this all. Okay, so we actually started out with a different Neon. This Neon I bought in 2015, but I mostly built parts from the first Neon, and so I somewhat consider them the same car. Also, the first Neon was in better condition when I replaced it with this car. I only replaced it so that I could upgrade my options to an automatic and cruise control because I have a bad back and I needed that. So knowing that, that first Neon was $100. That was my green camouflaged one. It appeared, one of the first videos on my channel was it plowing snow. So I use these cars to plow snow all winter, and I've put over 250 plowing hours off-road plowing snow on these cars included in this use. So I got a used engine for that car right away because it needed an engine when I got it. That's why it was only $100. $500 for that engine. And then I did a reseal, timing belt, water pump, thermostat, plugs, all that kind of stuff. And then I did the brakes on the car, complete brakes. I don't have all that broken down. I know what all this adds up to though. Then I did used struts I got from an auto wrecker for 50 bucks, and I put the lift, I welded the lift plates on there to lift my car up. That was the beginning of that, and put them in, and they're the same struts to this day in this car. They're pretty worn out now, but at the time they worked well. New wheel bearings. A lot of these parts were purchased at my local Napa because when you break down, that's what you do. It's more important to get the part than how much it cost. So none of this was Rock Auto. This was all stuff that I bought locally, and it cost me about 3 times what you pay from Rock Auto in most cases. New rear wheel bearings were $280, like I said, so pretty expensive, $140 per side. I changed the gear oil in the transmission. That was a special synthetic gear oil in that 5-speed, 120 bucks. I bought a used spoiler. I know that's kind of dorky, but I really like the way the trunk lid spoilers look on these cars, and mine didn't have one. So 75 bucks for that, $40 to spray paint it up with the camo paint job, and 130 bucks for a battery. 2 used window regulators. Two of the manual crank windows didn't work anymore. That fresh coolant, of course, and 4 used tires for 200 bucks. So all those repairs, that was basically from me getting the car as a non-running car to me driving the car for the first time. That was $2,300 worth of repairs I did there. So early in 2012, I had to put a coil pack and wires on. I had already done the plugs previous, but it started misfiring, so that was $200. Again, I just got the parts from my local Napa. I got a O2 sensor a short time later. That was $50. I replaced a failing cooling fan shortly after that. I noticed it was rough to spinning it by hand, and I had a replacement from the auto wrecker I got for $5. So I put it on. Replaced failing front wheel bearings in 2013 with low mile used hubs I got complete from the auto wrecker. They were free. And replaced clutch and throwout bearing. That was expensive, 230 bucks. I did that in late 2013 in preparation for plowing snow with the car. I also bought 2 brand new XI2 X-Ice, Michelin X-Ice tires for 350 bucks. They were on clearance because they were just coming out with the XI3s. So that's in fact these exact tires. I still have them.
Here's a close-up of those tires. They're actually XI2s, but they've performed really well for me in all weather conditions. I've used them year-round. I've used them off-road. I've used them to push snow. I mean, that's the ultimate test. And not only do they grip in all conditions, but they wear really well. You can see they're getting a little worn now, but this is 6 years later, so they've got a lot of use on them. I drive this car pretty aggressively too. I whip it around corners hard and stuff. I have a lot of fun with this car.
I also bought 2 used rear tires for $75 from the auto wrecker around that time. 2014 I had to put a new starter in. That was $200 for a brand new one. I used intake hose in 2014. That was my only breakdown. That was in the green neon. And it was a really cold day, like mine is negative 20 Celsius out. And the car I pulled up to a stop sign and the car just started redlining basically. So I just called a tow truck right away. I have free tows anyways through CAA, so I went that route. So yeah, $20 for a new intake hose. I'll show you that under the hood there. It just had a crack in it and it was sucking air. So it was actually right on the end and I could have just trimmed it off and stretched it back on. But it was really cold out. It was a cold winter day here in Canada, so I just went ahead and called the tow truck and brought it to the shop and worked on it there. That was easier. And I put used headlight bulbs in, just ones I recovered from a wreck. I save money where I can on this car. Interior dome light, I had to buy that one. That was $3. And then there was no repairs at all in 2015. That was the green neon, and there was an overlap of this black one, but I was still using the green one in 2015 as well.
Okay, moving on here. So we're on to the black neon now, the one that I've been filming, and I bought this car for $500. It was in very, very rough condition, worse condition than the green one was at the time. And so right away I did the normal belts, coolant, plugs, brake fluid flush. That's about $100 for all that. I did wheel cylinders, about $20 there. I had to replace the left rear window regulator. The roll-up ones on the neons the same week then, but that one rear one I had to replace, and I just took that from the green car at the time. And timing belt and water pump, I did that too. I wasn't sure how long the engine was going to last. It did seem unhealthy when we got it. It was knocking and stuff, but I did this anyways. And I actually still have these parts I took off the engine later because it failed. I'll get to that in a minute. I had to do an idler pulley on the belt. It was all busted up from some bad mechanic prying on it. There was a worn through power steering hose, had a hole in it, was starting to leak. That was $30. And service the transmission, you know, a new filter and some authentic Mopar ATF plus 4. So that was $100. And the valve cover gasket was leaking. That was $40. And then I installed an external transmission cooler. I already had the cooler. They're about $100 if you don't have one, but I had it, and then $40 for hoses. Now, in late 2015, the original engine in this car lost oil pressure. The oil light started coming on at an idle. We had driven it 7,500 kilometers or 4,700 miles by that point. So at that point, I swapped in the engine from the green one, the engine that I had originally bought as a loose engine used, and put in the green car. I took it out and put it in this car, and it is still in here running perfectly till this day. It's a very good engine. Still doesn't use oil or anything like that. It will probably run longer than any other part on the car still. So that was when the overlap of the two cars ended, and everything from the green car started to go into this car. I also swapped in the fuel tank from the green car, complete with the fuel pump. This one was leaking around the O-ring on the fuel pump there, and then the lift struts, the modified lift struts that I use in the car. They're the ones I got for 50 bucks originally. Then I modified them and put them in the green car. And I took them back out of the green car and I put them in this car because it needed new struts when I got it as well. And then I had to deal with a sunroof leak. I actually welded over the sunroof. Got a few pictures of that. And then the leaking taillights is pretty common on the neons as well. And so I just put some sealant around the seals and then put them back in and they were fine. And then in 2016, I bought 4 used tires for $200. Those were all-season tires that I put on the 15-inch snowflake rims, and I later traded them with my dad actually. Replace right rear wheel bearing, so one of those ones. I had put the wheel bearings as well off the green car, but one of them had failed, and so I replaced it, this time with a Rock Auto unit, a lot cheaper. 2018, I replaced both front wheel bearings. I actually did a video on the channel showing that. That was only $40. Those are just cheap bearings. I also replaced the air filter at that time. I've probably done that a couple times, but it's kind of factored into all this. I've rounded some stuff up to compensate. And I replaced the power steering pump in 2018 because we overheated it off-roading and ruined it. So I just took the one from the green neon, so that was free as well. In 2019, just recently here, the catalytic converter collapsed, and I actually just cut a hole in it and pulled all the guts out of it because they're not required in my area. And I replaced the alternator. That just failed recently here too, and same thing, I took the old one from the green one and put on there, so there was no cost there. Just even the things that didn't cost I'm mentioning because I realized they might have been a cost for somebody else in a different situation. Now parts sold, I actually sold some parts off of both cars. So the original set of snowflake rims that I had for the green one, I sold at some point for $65. And the set of snowflake rims that I had on this car came with them as well. I traded them with my dad for some performance tires that I'm going to use on my 240 SX actually. So that's where those went. So I valued that trade at $250. And then the 5-speed transmission, the one that was in the green car originally, the one I used for plowing snow for years, I sold that about a year ago for $75 to somebody, and it was still working well. And then the mirror, I just recently sold a mirror for $20 as well, so that's $390 worth of parts I've sold off of the cars, just extra parts I had. So that's subtracted from the total parts cost, which was $4,703. So if you subtract the $390 for the parts I sold, you get $4,313, which works out to only 6.3 cents a mile, or 4 cents per kilometer. So that's really cheap, but it doesn't include gas, insurance, registration, and oil changes. So I've gone ahead and calculated all that out, and with all that added in, it comes to $16,978 for the 68,125 miles and 8 years of driving. So that's 25 cents a mile, or 15.6 cents per kilometer. So that's including everything, that 25 cents a mile. And that is an impressive number because there was a 2013 study done in the US that said a small sedan would cost, to drive 15,000 miles a year, it would cost 46.4 cents per mile. So that's factoring with a newer car and driving more miles than I did. So my numbers are actually very impressive when you compare them out. Of course, I did all the labor myself, so I guess you could dispute it and say that basically the savings was in my labor, but I'm okay with that. I'm not making car payments, and I'm driving a reliable car, so that's the main points for me. Now there's one more page here, and that is snow plowing. I've calculated out the hours of snow plowing I've put on this car because it's pretty significant. Um, it's been plowing snow since 2014, so there was 2 seasons on the green one, 5 winters total. 2 seasons on the green one, 3 seasons on this black one so far. So on average, I used it about 20 times per winter. That's actually really conservative. We get a lot of snow here, and I've been known to plow for friends and stuff as well. So about 2.5 hours per use. Again, that's pretty conservative. So 100 uses in total, 250 hours of plowing off-road. There's been no breakdowns in any of that time. So that's a significant amount of wear rate there that isn't really registered in miles, because every time I plow I only put on about 8 miles or something, but I'm putting tons of wear on the car. There's also worth mentioning that we've put at least 40 hours of extreme off-road driving on the car. That means beating it down rough trails out in the woods, not roads at all, but rough trails through mud, over logs, over rocks, that kind of thing. You guys have seen the videos to prove all that. And then it's pushed and towed countless cars, trucks, and trailers around the yard here. This is absolutely my workhorse. I use it for everything. I pack stuff on it, I drag stuff, push stuff, whatever. So in conclusion, this particular car has been absolutely the best car I've ever owned. And that's despite all the abuse I put it through and everything. It's needed the least amount of attention to keep it running long term and reliable. Well, thanks a lot for watching Matt's Garage. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have yourself a great day.